Hi, I'm Anna Peterson, and for my interview, I'm going to be interviewing Shea, and we're going to be talking about the lifespan development. So, our first question to Shea, is the ages of 6 to the onset of puberty can promise middle and late childhood, and much of what children experience at this age is connected to their involvement in early grades of school. Now, the world becomes one of their learning, testing new academic skills, and assessing one's ability and accomplishments by making comparisons between themselves and others. And I'm just going to ask Shay, do you feel she has two girls, ages
9 and 7?
And I wanted to know if she felt like this was true, that her girls do this. They kind of compare themselves.
Well, yes. So we got them into sports last year. They're doing soccer, and they were noticing. Well, at first they did 2 seasons. The first season was a learning one. It was kind of whatever, but it was co-ed, and so they're like, wow, the boys are faster and that they're better at soccer. I'm like, you can be just as good, but you have to put in the hours. And so one of my girls is always like, yes, I'll work and practice. And the other one just kind of skates by, and it drives me crazy. It's my youngest one. And she just doesn't put in the work, but she does notice at school as well, like where kids are with like math, like, oh, they got 100%. I'm just like, man, just do your best. It's fine. So they do that at such a young age. I mean, it's only 9 and 7 that they're already comparing themselves to others. And it's kind of, like, it's all right, but then it's not when it's like, well,
as long as it doesn't go to the extreme.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to work on. Yeah. And sometimes we just kind of let it roll off their back, and other times it's like, oh my gosh, they get so stressed and worked up about it. And it's heartbreaking, but I don't know, just trying to
work through it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a lot of similarities between what this states. Another question I have is about Erik Erikson's development theory. And this is the one we're going to talk about is between ages 5 and 12 years. And it's industry versus inferiority, which is kind of similar to what we've already talked about, but it mostly is influenced by neighbors in the school or at school, which is the child learns to be productive and to accept evaluation of his or her efforts, or they become discouraged and feel inferior or incompetent. So they either are lifted and can go, okay, I'm okay with, I need to improve on this, or things that you say to them, or the things that you say to them could discourage them. But most of the time, I feel like that discouragement comes when it's just not put in the correct way.
Luckily, with the school that we're at, the teachers are pretty awesome. If there's discouragement, it's actually from other students. And they kind of will, they're just kids being kids. Like, oh, right, you go in that class, or you have to have extra help on reading. It's more towards that. I have had teachers in the past where they were extremely rude. And I'm like, my girls are younger. I'm like, they're 6. Are you really going to put that much stress on them when they're learning how to just read and count, and you're just being a brat about it?
Yeah.
Some people shouldn't be teachers.
Right.
But it can happen. Definitely can happen where they can talk down, and it can go in a negative way. So you do have to make sure you are able to communicate to younger kids in a positive way.
Do you feel like your girls are different in that area as far as accepting criticism or accepting help, or what they need to change from one girl to your younger girl?
Yes. Yes. One of them, my oldest, can get oversensitive about it, but let me think. Yeah, no, it's actually my youngest. My youngest she does great in school, but when there's anything critiquing around the house, she's always like, well, I'm the youngest. And she plays that card so hard.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh, no, like, you're putting too much stress on me. I'm like, no, you're 7 now. Like, get your butt together.
Nice. Okay, so the next question we're going to have is talking about age cohort. And you are, I'm guessing you're a millennial, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're about the same age as my kids. So when we look at these, the silent generation, baby boomers, are your parents are Generation X?
I think they're, yeah.
Between 1965 and 1980?
Yes, I believe, I want to say that my mom was 68.
Is 68.
Yeah.
So really close.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm right at 1966. So, but we're going to just talk about the differences. And my first question to you is, how are you similar or different from your parents?
So we're very disciplined in the house. Well, unfortunately with my mom, she ran the house by herself, and she would kind of do too much of the chores herself. And so I feel like I do it too, but it's also because I'm a little particular in how I want things done. Right. And so I'm like, well, if you're not going to do it, then I'll just do it. So I'm trying to work that. But my parents just taught us how to work hard, be respectful, and just do your best. And we do have those values as well.
So and so we carried them. Your house too.
The only thing that is different is that my parents were kind of, when they argue, it's like behind closed doors, right. Or but what Brian and I do is, if we argue and they happen to argue in front of the girls, we also show that we apologize and that what we do after the fight.
Right.
So it's it's okay it's okay to be mad, and it's okay to yell sometimes.
Well, you didn't ever see that from your parents.
Not often. Or they would fight, but they would never apologize.
Yeah.
And
so you knew it, but you didn't ever see the apology part either. Yeah. Even though they did it, you heard it.
Well, we never heard the apology. We heard the fighting.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just never heard what
happened after, or see
how you
fix it.
To become the bigger person, to actually be like, I was in the wrong.
Right.
In that situation. So
yeah, I get that. So how has your parents' generation influenced your perspectives on family relationships?
The Generation X, actually, even all those ones, even before, it's the whole, I'm the man, my only job is to bring money into the house, and then the woman stays home. Brian and I feel like, you know what, I'm a little stronger in this subject. I'll take this one, you take that one. And if we're both 50-50, we don't know, we try to come together and communicate it to the girls. Right. So we don't have a whole I wear the pants in this relationship type thing, which with my family, I have 4 brothers and a sister, and they all wear the pants. They don't share responsibility.
No. So they kind of carried that from your parents,
I think,
to their relationships that they have now. Yeah, that makes sense. And I see that with a lot of people, including me and my husband, and we're changing that, but it's taken 25 years to get to go,
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, how does your family navigate the differences between your parents and yourself?
Like what Brian and I do?
Yeah. Well, the differences, do you have any conflict with your parents that you have to navigate between?
Well, honestly, my family's in Arizona, and so we just, that distance helped.
Right.
And so, it's not necessarily with my parents because they're divorced and I don't have that much of a relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
And so I would have to say it would be like my mom and my siblings.
Yeah.
And just being with them and that close is just it's so easy to get sucked in, and then somebody always says something wrong.
Right.
And then,
it's
normal.
Just so now you can feel like that's normal, because that's normal.
It's normal, and I get it, and it's just, but my family is also very strong-headed, and they're very slow to apologize, and you have to apologize in a specific way for it to matter or whatever. And then Brian's side of the family, no confrontation, nothing. They don't even communicate. And there's just
well, that's why they don't communicate, because they don't like confrontation.
And so the only thing, but they're passive aggressive,
yeah.
And so they're passive aggressive. They don't admit that they've ever been wrong, and they don't apologize. And if they do apologize, it's just kind of like a blanket, I'm sorry for the last month, and then it's done.
And then it's done.
And then like, well, no, there were
No,
things said or there was actions that you kind of have to acknowledge and be like, that wasn't okay to behave like that or
Right.
to say those things. And so
Right.
it's just our families are complete opposites. So we're just, tucked in the middle
Well, I
and trying
think
to
a
figure
lot of
out.
that comes from how they learned from their parents how to do that, though.
Well, yeah. So my parents would fight in front of us. His parents wouldn't. And it was always behind closed doors. And we actually both come from divorces.
Yeah.
So my parents are divorced. His parents are divorced. So
Well,
it's
it's a good
just,
thing that you guys can see that and see what differences there are from generation to generation and then stop that.
even in my family, just like all my siblings, from my mom to my
even
thing,
stop it
just
from
like,
your brothers and sisters because obviously they're not even doing that, and stop that and have your girls carry something else different forward.
that's what we're trying.
Instead, that's what you're trying. And that's what you need to do. Well, I appreciate you talking to me today,
Yeah.
Shea, and taking your time. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you for listening.